Hello, everyone. Jason Hagholm here, and it's that time again. Another edition of Jason and the Gentleman. And joining me, as always, is the gentleman of mixed martial arts, the gentleman Josh Hill. Josh, we're finally in the home stretch at the end of 2020. As today is the beginning of December, Christmas time's in the air, and hopefully we can get rid of this stench of this year soon enough.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's nice that it's this year. This year definitely sucked for the most part. I mean, there's obviously things to be grateful about and things that were good, but overall, I think as a whole, everybody can say this has been a pretty shitty year. So let's hope that 2021. I mean, let's hope going into that year, it kind of starts off on a more positive note than we're ending this one.
Well, the only good thing, I guess, right now is we're in the last month, and the Christmas season always puts myself in a good mood, and I'm sure it does the same with you, especially
Right.
with the young ones in the house now. So, let's enjoy that. Let's and ride out in 2020, and then start fresh with 2021, as I'm sure most people, as you said, are, because this year has been rough for a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah. I love Christmas, man. So I love all December, so it's a good time. Now I got my duties to hide this damn elf every morning. So, that's my main concern. I got to remember to move the elf every night so the kids can find it in the morning in a different spot.
The elf on a shelf, is it working? Because I mean, this is kind of a newer thing.
I mean, it wasn't around when I was coming up, right?
No.
But and probably you as well. But I don't know. They love it. They wake up in the morning and the first thing they want to do is see where the elf is. So.
All right. Well, you know what? I mean, it is the best time of year. I mean, I've probably cranked back a couple editions of Home Alone and Home Alone 2 by now, so I'm sure you have a lot of your favorite Christmas movies that you watch by now as well.
Christmas Vacation is my number one. We already knocked it off the list. I'll probably watch it again though. But yeah,
Actually,
Home Alone's awesome. Love them.
actually, today in 1989, Christmas Vacation hit theaters for the first time. So,
Oh, is that right? Yeah. Was
yeah,
it
it's
today? Yeah.
31 years old officially today. A great movie.
Oh, oh, that's my favorite, man. It's like if I got to pick one movie every year, that's the one.
Yeah, it's really grown on me, honestly. It was on TV the other week, and I was hooked on it because it's just so good. And somehow these Christmas movies, by the way, sorry to get off on the tangent before we're getting the MMA stuff, the Christmas movies are so much better on TV, I find, just because they extend it and drag it out.
I think it's because it has that nostalgic feel where
Yeah.
that's we grew up, we had to watch it and we had to watch through commercials and shit like that. We couldn't just go and click on Netflix and watch it. So it just kind of brings back that old childhood memory.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Josh, we'll transition here to the realm of mixed martial arts. And, well, Saturday was a busy night for combat sports, not just with the UFC, which was, had some solid fights on it, but not one of the stellar UFC cards as it went head to head with the Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. fight. We'll get to that in a sec, but. Main event, makeshift main event, as was supposed to be a heavyweight fight between Curtis Blades and Derek Lewis, and then Curtis Blades tests positive for coronavirus, so that fight's now scrapped and hopefully to be rescheduled at some point, maybe even by the end of this year. But we had the likes there of Lionheart, Anthony Smith, once again main event, and he took on Devin Clark and made quick work of him. Actually showed off some great jiu-jitsu with the first round triangle choke submission to get his career back on track.
Yeah, yeah, that's a big win for him. Because the guy kind of, he's a guy that's been around for a long, long time and has had so many fights. And then he kind of, hit the UFC. I think he was in the UFC before, and then he was released and he came back, if I'm correct, right?
Yeah, he's one of those guys. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he just kind of had a resurgence and put a string wins together over some bigger names that were at the end of their careers, and then ended up getting a title shot. And fighting John Jones. I mean, it's a tough task for anybody in the world. So, but then I kind of had some losses after that too, and I think this was a big win for him to kind of change direction of his career and get back on that winning track. So it's always a huge relief. I'm sure he's feeling getting back in those winning ways.
Well, I mean, a win's a great thing, obviously, because, he himself said he couldn't function without a win. And the losses he had were some devastating ones, especially that Glover Teixeira one 2 fights ago, where a lot of people thought his corner should have stepped in and stopped the fight because he was just taking unnecessary amounts of damage, but he gets the win. And, for him, it's not over a top tier guy. Like,
No.
Not to disrespect Devin Clark, but Devin Clark's not the caliber of the fighters he was fighting previously. But, a win's a win. And this division, though, you kind of need something like that to get going. And how stacked 205 is in the UFC.
Yeah, to be honest, that Devin Clark I'd actually never heard of, and I don't mean that to be mean. I just, he's a guy. I seen him, seen the highlights. I have seen him fight before. I just didn't know his name. But yeah, he's definitely not a top tier guy, but it's definitely a guy that is a good start to get back at it, and it's a good win, but it'll help you build back up to the top level.
Do you sometimes think it's important for fighters maybe to take, that step down a rung? Because that's what Smith does here. He gets the win. And sometimes maybe you just got to readjust yourself and take one where you have that experience factor over your opponent, and it's just so overwhelming.
Yeah, I can understand why guys do it, especially if they are in that, kind of like a rut where they've lost 2, 3, 4 in a row and then just need to get that win back. And just it's more so just to regain that confidence and get those negative thoughts out of your mind that you've been battling the last few fights. So I think that's why a lot of guys do it, and it's probably not a bad idea. But I can't bite you in the ass though. Sometimes we see those fights where the upsets happen because guys take the guys too lightly. So it goes both ways. It kind of just depends on the situation.
Yeah, and more importantly though, I mean, I was impressed with Smith's jiu-jitsu. You don't see those 205 guys really showing off what they can do on the ground.
Yeah, I mean that's awesome, especially see a triangle. You don't see like triangles. I mean, I love triangles, but you don't see them often. Really anymore. It's more so. If you're gonna see subs, it's rear naked chokes and Darce chokes and guillotines and whatnot. But yeah, to pull off a triangle, especially the big men, it's good to see.
The co-main event was Miguel Baez defeating Takashi Sato, which was an impressive win for Baez. Dana White seems really hot on him, with the Puerto Rican background and someone they can try to market the sport to, that Puerto Rican audience, which has a huge history of being boxing fans. But, he's 10-0, picks up a win over against a real durable guy in Takashi Sato, a veteran from Japan with Pancrase, and picked up some nice wins in the UFC. And this was, I think, a fight a lot of people were excited for. But, credit to Baez. He looked sensational and got that arm triangle submission.
Yeah, I didn't get to see these fights. This is when I clicked over. I was watching the Tyson card, but I just I don't really know a lot about these guys, to be honest. It looks like you said he's like the Puerto Rican. I think they're going to try and build around that, which is always good to have a country that's not really. It's not like we have a lot of Americans and Canadians and Brazilians, so it's nice to see a different country that's not really known for their MMA, really. So I'm sure they're going to utilize that and build on it. And hopefully the next kind of star that way.
Yeah, this was a card that, honestly, minus the original main event of Blades and Lewis, I don't think a lot of people would have been tuning into. There's some good talent on there. Like Jonathan Pierce is a guy that I think is an interesting story where, he fought on those Bellator Super Series, which were events that were held at NASCAR racetracks, and then worked his way up to the UFC and has been on a nice little run. And, Sue Major, one of the Chinese fighters, beat Malcolm Gordon and did beat him handedly, which was kind of surprising to see. And I felt real bad for Malcolm.
Yeah, I watched the Malcolm fight and I watched the Gina Mazani fight just because I know both of them. So I wanted to watch those. And yeah, for the Malcolm, man, that sucks. But I think it was like 40 seconds. It just I don't know what it was, if he did kind of clock him with those and kind of ring his bell, or just he felt that and that was it. But yeah, I felt bad for Malcolm for sure. Hopefully he can wipe himself off from this and get another crack at it. So we'll see what they give him.
Yeah, I really hope so, because I was super excited to see Malcolm fight in his natural weight class at 125, because his UFC debut was like this weird catch weight up at 135 because his opponent couldn't cut down to 125, was one of those purposely I'm not going to make weight type situations. Yeah. So I thought this would be a better situation, and it's unfortunate how he didn't even get to last 1 minute in his debut at that weight class. But I know Malcolm, I've seen some of his posts, he's a little depressed, and obviously understandably so, but hopefully he gets one more shot at it, because this is one of the most talented guys on the ground in all of Canadian mixed martial arts.
Yeah, we'll see if they give another shot in the UFC. If not, then I mean, fight in a different promotion well, once this pandemic kind of settles down a bit, get another crack there and work your way back up. We'll see. Who knows? Hopefully they give him another crack. I hope so. I like seeing the Canadian guys do well, and I know Malcolm. He's a nice guy, and I hope nothing but the best for him. So we'll see what they give him. And the 125 now. Like, if this was last year, they probably would have cut him because, the 125 was kind of on the way out in the division as a whole. So, but the way it's kind of rebounded now and it's kind of on fire again, they might give him another crack, hopefully.
Yeah, for sure. And then, you did mention you saw the Gina Mazani Rachel Ostavich fight, which I thought was one of the better fights on this card. Both those girls brought it. I mean, Mazani got the finish at the end of the third round with a beautiful set of body shots to Ostavich, and really, may have saved herself a spot in the UFC. But excellent fight, one of the better ones on the night.
Yeah, I think this was like the winner stays, loser goes type thing. In my mind, I thought it was anyway. So yeah, I'm really happy to see Gina get the win. She's had some tough goes in the UFC, and then she was released and signed back, and then she came off. It was a quick loss too, so it's nice to see her get that win. And for the Rachel Ostavich, man, like I think she's the only girl or only fighter, I shouldn't say girl, the only fighter with a losing record in the UFC, which is pretty sad to say. Like, I mean, you're fighting in the biggest organization. Apparently, they shouldn't have a losing record. So, I mean, she's tough and durable in game, but like, I think, she's there, or she's still there for other reasons than her fighting capability.
Yeah, I think we know what those other reasons are, what they would be. But, I mean, I thought she showed some toughness, more importantly than anything. But that can only get you so far, especially in the UFC where they want guys and girls with winning records. So I don't know what they do with Rachel Ostavich. I could see them cutting her, but I could also see them giving her another fight because she does have, the ability to draw people in and watch her fight. So who knows? But, I mean, that was pretty much the UFC, a interesting card, but more highlighted by the card you were more paying attention to on Saturday, which was in the realm of boxing, and it was Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. with an interesting undercard as well, with YouTube sensation Jake Paul taking on Nate Robinson, former NBA basketball player. First of all, Josh, what did you think of the presentation from the event? Because I thought it looked really cool. Had an interesting broadcast booth with Sugar Ray Leonard, Mauro Ranallo, and Israel Adesanya, and Snoop Dogg.
I had mixed feelings about it, to be honest. I don't really know. Like, I love how they have Mauro. I love Mauro, man. He's one of my favorites. I've known him forever in the sport, and it kind of looked like it was like I was watching an episode of like Black Mirror or something. The way it was kind of weird. I liked it, but it just kind of seemed like so like futuristic. But I like the one thing I did like is like it's all black because there's no attendance, right? So, but I like how everything's black and then the ring is white, and it really kind of pops like that. So I thought the production actually looked pretty good. And yeah, I mean, it's weird to have Adesanya come in as a commentator to a boxing match, but I guess they're just he's a big name in the fight game. So and then Snoop Dogg, man, I think they're just throwing him in there because it's Snoop Dogg, and everybody loves Snoop Dogg, right? But yeah, overall, man, I enjoyed it. I really liked it.
Yeah, I thought the presentation was good. I thought Adesanya really killed it. Like, he fit in. Shows like he's a natural talker when he's setting up fights. So yeah, that transition's sometimes hard for guys, especially if you watch the history of pro wrestlers. The great talkers are normally not so good as commentators. Yeah, Roddy Piper, for example. But I thought Adesanya did very well. Agree with you. I thought Mauro was the best guy to be the play-by-play guy. Yeah. And Snoop has been getting all the love. But I think maybe it's more because it's just the one-off. Remember the UFC tried him as like the weekly commentator in season 1 of the Contender Series with the Snoop cast, which was I know one of the reasons a lot of people early wanted to watch, and it didn't really fit. But he was excellent on Saturday night.
I think if you're gonna have him in there, it's just like a sideshow type thing. It's just like an extra throw in because we all love Snoop Dogg. But as far as but that's why you have the guys like you mentioned, the Moros and even Adesanya there, because people that actually legitimately understand and know what they're talking about the sport.
Yeah, exactly. Well, moving on to the fight, first of all, the main event. I mean, it was an exhibition, 8 rounds, 8 2-minute rounds of boxing. Roy Jones Jr. and Mike Tyson, and I had my doubts that this would be entertaining and good, but this blew them away. Mike Tyson, for 54 years old, looked excellent. He looked in shape. He had some great movement and delivered still some devastating body shots to Roy Jones Jr.
Yeah, I had my worries about this because I just thought, okay, first of all, I thought, okay, I think Mike is going to be dangerous the first 2 rounds, and then after that, Roy Jones is going to just kind of take it away and win with cardio and movement, and I was wrong about that. I was also worried about like if somebody actually does get like seriously hurt, being 54 years old, like I don't want to see an older guy get mangled, which I didn't think they would let happen anyway. Or I didn't want to see like a clash of heads in the first round and the fight's over because of small cut, because they call it because it's an exhibition. But none of those things happened, and it actually, man, I was pleasantly surprised and I was entertained, and the skill set and the cardio and the speed that Tyson still possessed, man. I was super impressed. Even like his head movement was it's still there. It has not gone. And even his footwork, he angles off and hits the body. And he looked great, man. And I was super entertained with that. And Roy Jones, I think he did what he had to do to survive. In there, he got off on a couple punches, doing what the Roy Jones does, but overall, I think he felt that that cardio and he felt those body shots, and that's why there was a lot of clinch work, just because you had to slow the big man down.
Yeah, first of all, I didn't think Roy came in the best of shape. I know he's getting up there, but he'd been the more active guy, so I thought he did look a little more chubby. Like Tyson looked still ripped. Like he looked like Tyson from like 1996 out there, honestly, and had the great movement. And I understand why the clinch game was there. But I'm, if Triller or whoever's promoting these wants to do another version of this with Tyson versus, Evander Holyfield, who right now is trying to angle for, the third fight, I would be game. Like, honestly, like Tyson didn't embarrass himself. The event went off with a success, and Tyson may be able to get a whole new fan base, and he seemed more interested in the exhibitions than like actual sanctioned boxing fights, which I think makes you don't really care who wins or loses as well, because the scorecards on this was an abomination of judging. Like there's no way this should have been a draw if this was a real fight, because I thought it was like, if anything, 7-1 for Tyson.
Yeah. Tyson won the fight, handily. I think they just. I mean, both guys, I don't think really care. It was never about like, I'm going to win this or what. It was just kind of get in there and put on a show and get that feeling back and be in a fight again. Because, I can understand how those guys have been out of the game, especially Tyson for 15 years or whatever it's been. I can only understand that feeling that, that after landing that first punch or even taking that first punch, he's probably just like a kid in a candy store again. And he had that all-time high. And yeah, man, I'm happy for him. I'm happy to see that it's going like that. And I would love to see him Holyfield 3. I would love to tune into that, dude. I don't even care. I don't care how old they are. And this is what I like about this too, because it's not, Tyson, they're putting him in there with some 26-year-old up-and-comer, that's going to murder him. They're putting him in there with a guy that is on the same, caliber, wavelength, age. So it's a fair fight, man. That's why even some of in the MMA, I like seeing the older guys sometimes, as long as they're fighting another older guy too.
Yeah, it's like finally Yama's Legends division's kicked off in the realm of boxing, and it's working out. But I mean, as well, like they don't seem to care about wins and losses. Like Tyson seems like, I'd rather be the headliner and help build some guys up. And one of the guys that seems like they're building up is YouTube sensation Jake Paul, who, sure, he won in devastating fashion against Nate Robinson, a guy that had never fought before in his life. And instantly after, I mean, it was a devastating knockout, don't get me wrong, but after that, instantly called out Conor McGregor and Danis. I mean, thoughts on this, Josh?
I did not know who this guy was until leading up to the fight, where I had to kind of look at who. He's the guy on YouTube always does the splits and shit like that. Is that one of the videos?
He's one of those that the kids are into, that does excursions and gets people to, I guess, think that if you just keep putting stuff out on YouTube, you can be bajillionaire, when I think it's like his family had a lot of money beforehand and whatnot. But yeah, honestly, if it wasn't his boxing career, I'd have no idea who he was.
No, I didn't know. And I just, he's a YouTube star. I don't even know any YouTube stars, but I guess he's one of them. And he fought a ex NBA
player.
NBA player. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch this and see. Jake Paul, right? Jake Paul.
Yes, he has a brother also who boxes named Logan.
Logan. Okay, I heard the Logan too. Okay, so does the Logan actually a boxer, or is he a YouTube star as well?
They're both YouTube stars. They both box. They're both taking over boxing, but this was Jake Paul's time.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Well, watching it, I wasn't actually Jake Paul actually showed that he had a little bit of skill. He looked like he had been there before, and he's definitely traimed before. And the other guy did not.
Yeah.
Robinson, right? Robinson.
Yeah.
He just, man, you get in there, throw a kind of a wild punch, and immediately look to a clinch, almost looking like he was doing, taking wrestling shots sometimes. But yeah, he just looked out of place, looked out of sorts, looked like he just, that he didn't have the experience, nor technique, nor skill. And yeah, he's a great athlete, but man, it's a different ball game. Like you could put like a guy on the field in the NFL, and yeah, he's gonna look like shit. But when you put him in a fight, you're gonna get like really, really hurt. You know what I mean? And that's what happened. And eventually, I think the fight should have been stopped beforehand. You know what I mean? I don't think it was necessary for him to get put out, because it was just going that way anyway. I think that's just, they were looking for that final shot to actually finish it, and they got some drama out of it. But it's at the expense of Robinson.
Well, what do you think about this, Josh? Because you know how social media is, and everyone's been clowning Nate Robinson for, getting embarrassingly knocked out. But, 99.9% of those people have never trained, have never even been in a fight, first of all, and would never want to get in a fight, in a sanctioned bout. So I think it goes to what you're saying, like, you need some serious training to do boxing, MMA, anything combat sports. It looks easy on TV, but it 100% isn't, and shows to just what high-level quality athletes, guys like you and any other pro boxing kickboxer are.
Yeah, man. The people on the internet, I always think that quote, the man in the arena, they're all just the shit talkers from the cheap seats, and like you said, 99% of them would never get in there, and I've probably never been in a fight, and probably can't even walk up the stairs without being out of breath, right? So I give the guy credit for trying something and stepping out of his comfort zone and trying something new like that, but it just looked like the skill level was not even close yet. So I think, if you want to do that, that's awesome. I think start a little bit smaller, a little less eyes, have maybe some smokers, and then maybe build it up from there, and then kind of put yourself in that public eye. But like I said, good on him for trying to take the shot. It didn't work out, and it's unfortunate now. Like, there's the internet, and everything lasts forever, and people are so cruel and shit. But I guess that's the price you pay when you put yourself in the public eye.
I will say, though, Nate Robinson may get the last laugh, because his first tweet since this was, "What happened? Who won the fight?" So he's at least kind of.
I like that. It's like Ben Askren did, with the Masvidal. It's like, what are you gonna do? It's like, if you're just gonna be dwelling on it, it's just gonna eat at you forever. Just like have fun with it. Shit happens, and just play with it, man.
Yeah, and it really is gonna take all like the shit talkers or the internet trolls off you, because you're kind of owning it, and once you own it, nothing can really hurt your aura of that.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm glad to see him taking that road.
Yeah, so that was pretty much. There was another fight that Badu Jack fought on that card, and he's a sensational pro boxer, got a big win. But that was what people wanted to see, where really the YouTube versus the boxer and the Tyson fight. And apparently this pay-per-view drew over 1 million pay-per-view buys, which is sensational in this time. And I knew it would do well, because some of the people I saw never talk about combat sports on like my social media, and they were talking about that they were watching it, so clearly they had ordered it. So that's good for Triller. Apparently they needed to do like 600,000 just to break even. Well, they obviously over exceeded that, and we probably will get another Tyson fight sometime in 2021.
Yeah, it's probably because you have older people now that are watching Tyson because they probably watched Tyson back in the 80s and 90s, and then you have come my generation, our generation, where we know who Tyson is. We didn't get to see him. We were just little kids when he was fighting, in his prime, or not even maybe alive, some of us, but we would know who he is. The aura of Tyson. So we were watching that, and you also have these young kids now, I guess, watching this YouTube guy. So you kind of have every generation kind of tapped there. So I guess what they did, it was pretty smart and drew a lot of eyes. So I'd love to see another one.
I would too. And I guess, we got off on the tangent there, but, Jake Paul calling out Conor McGregor and Dillon Danis. Like, I understand he's fought some YouTubers and a now basketball player, but he would have like zero chance for sure against Conor. He may have some success on the feet with Danis because of if it's straight boxing. Yeah. But if this is an MMA fight, which he's called for, instantly take it down and choke it down.
Yeah, I mean, if at first, just don't even. I mean, the McGregor thing's not even. That's not even on the same planet. But the Dillon Danis one, it's just. If it was a boxing match, that would make it a little bit more interesting. Just to kind of see. Because Dillon, we never even really get to see his striking because he never uses it ever. But if it was an MMA fight, I mean, it would just be, I think, Dillon pulling guard and subbing him within 30 seconds, really.
It would be about that, yeah. It'd be like James Toney, Randy Couture, where Randy instantly took Tony down and was like, well, gonna ground and pound you for a bit and then choke you out. But, I mean, that was, the one time it's really happened, and maybe it'll happen. If I'm Bellator, though, I'd try to start this up and get some eyeballs on your promotion as well with one of your guys and maybe get something going. I don't know, but I would work at it because Jake Paul is, you may think he's an idiot, but he brings eyeballs and has attention on him.
Yeah, I would be surprised if they don't. Because if he actually says he wants to do an MMA fight, on Dillon's with Bellator still, I'm sure that would draw a lot of attention. And yeah, I mean, why not?
And Dillon be the only time Dillon Danis would be the 100% baby face going into there because this is a guy that most people in MMA don't like, but if he fought Jake Paul, he'd have 100% of the fan support.
Yeah, I think so. Who knows? Even actually, a lot of people hate him.
I think it could also be that where they just two people that you just hate and you just want to see both of them demolish each other in there. But, keeping with the trend of boxing and, the PFL, who they took this year off, as we've talked about, but they've made some signings. And one of the big signings that they've done now is Claressa Shields, who is a 10-0 champion in women's boxing, has signed with the promotion and will join mixed martial arts and join them starting in 2021. And honestly, if I'm the PFL, this is easily one of the biggest signings they've ever had, can bring a whole new set of eyeballs on her, but it's still a different realm. Like, she can't just rely on her stand-up. There's wrestling, there's takedowns, there's jiu-jitsu. So I'm interested to see what we can see in growth of Claressa Shields.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest here. I didn't even know who she was, and that's not. I'm not trying to be like. I don't really follow women's boxing a whole lot. I looked her up after, and I have seen her before. But yeah, I wasn't. I was like, who is that? And then I looked at the boxing champion. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a good signing for them. I think she's 10-0. You said, right? 10-0. So she's a very successful boxer. She's going to bring some of the boxing eyes into the PFL, which is what they want. I have no idea if she's even training. I mean, obviously she's got to be training in mixed martial arts, not just boxing, if she wants to make the transition over. What weight class does she fight at?
Well, so she normally fights boxing at 160 pounds. So this would be for like the women's lightweight division, where you can see what their goal is to have the collision course on New Year's Eve with Kayla Harrison.
Yeah, I think this is, I mean, if I'm Kayla Harrison, I'm loving this. This is like you said, Randy Couture, James Toney style. I'm just going to take this. I don't care how good her boxing is. I'm going to take her down and submit her, which I think she would do. I don't see, under a year being, gaining those abilities and skill sets to be able to keep the fight on the feet entirely and beat somebody like a Harrison, but you never know.
Well, especially if you saw Kayla's last fight with her debut in Invicta, where she just smashed Courtney King into like hamburger and like literally had like a small pool of blood in there. But if I'm the PFL though, this is like I said, this is a great signing because there is no depth in women's boxing, which is kind of the problem for Claressa, why she's making the move over, where there is at least a solid pool of fighters in mixed martial arts. And even though 155 pounds in women's MMA isn't that big of a weight class, it's not like a lot of girls would have to have trouble getting there. It's more them putting on the weight because, of how successful 135 and 145 have been. So there's at least more options there for her fights, but it's a lot of big risk and maybe no reward for PFL too.
Yeah. I mean, the talent pool, and as you go up in weight classes for the women, man, it just drops and drops and drops, right? So I wonder if she can get down to 145, because there would be a little bit more, more options there for her. Because even 45 is like not deep at all. You look at the UFC, there's not a whole lot. Even Bellator, there's some, but not a whole lot. And 55, it's even less, right? So I don't know how big she is. If she could get down to 45, she'd definitely be more options for them. But 55, there's not a whole lot there.
Well, you know what? It's good to see though the PFL they're trying to rack themselves up and really change the outlook, because this year has not been a great year for them PR wise, especially with canceling their season and kind of holding up fighters from taking fights outside the organization. I mean, now they're starting to let other fighters do that, but it seems a little too late. But this move now already, and especially with the signing as well of Fabricio Verdum, they already signed Rory McDonald, so they have themselves at least a solid start to this new season in 2021.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how they're going to do. They got some big names. They're obviously got some money. They got a lot of people backing them. I don't know. I've seen a bunch of celebrities are investors in that promotion. I know like Kevin Hart is one. So they definitely have some backers that have deep pockets that are, okay with, maybe losing a bit the first little bit to build this thing up into something big, which I hope they do, because it's good for us fans and fighters. And this year will be interesting. I think it'll be a pivotal year for them too.
Oh, for sure. It definitely is a pivotal year because, I mean, thankfully they have that backing and a solid platform already with ESPN and ESPN Plus as, kind of the weekday MMA version for what the UFC is. So they have that going for them, and hopefully they can turn it, because they have the best, I think, format of any of the promotions right now with this playoff like system where we're still getting the old school as well, where some guys and girls are fighting twice a night, and it makes for some intrigue and drama, which the sport can instantly create.
Yeah, it's a different approach to it, and I do like what they're doing with the whole season thing. One, it's just because it's different, and it's kind of, it's like any other. It's like the NFL or NHL. It's like you have a whole season, and you're getting points based on wins and losses, and then you got to make the playoffs, and then like you said, the two fights in the one night. It's pretty cool, and it also for the fighters, it keeps them active. If you win the whole thing, or you get to the finals, you fight 5 times in a year, which is a very, very busy year, which is, I mean, if you can stay injury free and stay healthy, it's what we want.
Plus you win $1 million. I mean, talk about a big payday right there.
$1 million, man. That doesn't really happen often. I mean, the Bellator does it with the Grand Prix. That's why I want them to do a bantamweight Grand Prix, man. Give me that in there, get that $1 million. But yeah, that's pretty cool. You don't really see that anywhere else, which is, so PFL is paying out the $1 million. The Grand Prix got the $1 million. Maybe the UFC should take some notes and do a tournament style and pay out $1 million.
Yeah, Josh, if they have a bantamweight Grand Prix and you win it, I think that'd be like 1.75 million Canadian because of the exchange rate. Yeah. So I mean, actually, really would work out for you. So absolutely. Extra incentive for you to win it if they create one.
Gotta love that conversion rate in the US right now.
Exactly. Well, I mean, it's good for PFL. It's good for women MMA as well to get some other names in there. But as we're winding down the year, Josh, and we kind of hinted at this last week, where the UFC's final show, which is this fight night card that has all these sensational fights, that's really worthy of a pay-per-view, which was going to be headlined by Khamzat Chimaev and the likes there of Leon Edwards. Well, we heard earlier in the week that Chimaev had tested positive for COVID, but his team said, no, that's not true. It was a false positive. And as of right now, that seemed to be true because unfortunately, Leon Edwards was the one that tested positive for COVID. So this fight's now scrapped and will be set for a later date in 2021. I mean, one of all the cards that the UFC's had, this one doesn't suck the most to be affected by it, to lose your main event just because of the depth on it. But man, UFC's had some serious trouble and unfortunate luck with COVID and just wiping like four or five main events out in the past 4 weeks.
Yeah, it always seems to be the main event too. It's never like the first fight of the night, or I guess you just hear about it more when it is the main event, right? But yeah, it's been unfortunate this whole year since they started putting shows back on. UFC's had a whole bunch, Bellator's had a whole bunch too of cancellations. Guys testing positive due to COVID, far out from the fight or even sometimes week of. Which is pretty unfortunate. Like I said, I'm just over this whole COVID bullshit, and I just want it to be done with so we can move on with our lives and live a normal life and not have to worry about this every single time a card pops up and worrying about somebody falling out due to testing positive.
Well, it's I think how everyone feels. I think we're all kind of at the COVID fatigue part, which is why I think people are, at least in this province, have taken their own umbrage, and I'm just gonna do whatever, be safe enough in my own ways. But there's got to be some way. Like, I know the UFC's kind of built this bubble, but when you keep exchanging people in it every week, like, it's not really a bubble. So that's why I think we're having that. And I don't know, maybe once we can control COVID or something, we'll get back to worrying about fights being canceled due to injury or other reasons like that. But this just unfortunate. And like, we had Kevin Holland test positive. And he's now back like 2 weeks later, and they're kind of sometimes rushing it. Who knows? But yeah, it's just unfortunate for UFC and how they've had this stretch of COVID.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's. I mean, I think they're doing what they can do, the best they can do it. But there's no it's going to happen, right? There's going to be interaction. There's going to be people giving it to other people. A lot of people don't even know they have it. It's just one of those things. And as far as the guys testing positive and then fighting quickly after, I guess it all depends on how it affects you. Because most people are asymptomatic, or they have really little to mild symptoms. And then some people, it lasts longer and it lingers, right? So they just kind of feel like shit for 3 weeks. And then some people get it seriously bad, right? So it's a tough call. And, I guess we're learning as we go.
I think, though, the UFC has done a good job, I will say. Sure, it's one fight, but it's not the entire card or something. Like, if you want to look at how bad other leagues have handled it, look at the NFL this week. It's been an entire disaster for the NFL, where the Baltimore Ravens had a massive outbreak. They haven't been able to practice since last Saturday and are supposed to play this Wednesday for a game that's been rescheduled 4 times. And they're literally having to reschedule games like week by week and just extending their season. So I will give Dana White and the UFC credit, because one fight affected sucks, but it's not your entire card where you already have like broadcast obligations, where the NFL, on the other hand, they've just been a total disaster. Like the Denver Broncos this week didn't even have a quarterback because all their quarterbacks tested positive for coronavirus.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. The only difference is and I give I'll give some leniency for the NFL is because it's a team sport, right? Where in mixed martial arts, it's an individual sport where you're surrounded by only you could really do a training camp if with only a few people interacting with you. Whereas a team sport, there's 40, 50, 60 guys on the team or whatever, and plus all the trainers and whatnot. So there's just more chance of spread because they're just around more people. You have to be.
And as well, like, obviously there's certain things that have gone down, like why these cases have kind of outbroke. Like, there's mandatory things in place, like wearing a mask, and a lot of people aren't wearing that. And now teams are getting fined for it. Like the New Orleans Saints won a game, had a post-game celebration. No one wore a mask. The team was fined like over $750,000, and they lost draft picks. So imagine if MMA did something like that. Like, I don't think they will, but imagine if you weren't following certain protocols and they like took money away from you for not following it. Like,
no,
right? We're living in crazy. Like, I could just see promoters being like, "Oh, more way to take money from people." Yeah. But I mean, thankfully, we're not there. But like, yeah, that's where we're at right now, where we have to fine and affect franchises in team sports for not complying with most of it being basic common sense.
Yeah, it's yeah. I'm even gonna touch it, but it's a shitty situation all around, and there is really people are searching for an answer that is not an easily accessible one because there's just so many factors affecting everything. So everybody's just kind of in disarray, and the world is on fire right now.
Well, you know what? That we'll put a pause to that conversation for now. We'll end on kind of some positive news as UFC Fight Pass, they announced they've got some new promotions that'll be on the streaming platform in 2021, and two of them are in Canada. One of them being Unified out in Alberta, which is produced a lot of great talent. Teddy Ash fought in the Contender Series. Tanner Boser was a former heavyweight champion there. And as well, Battlefield Fighting League with the BFL out of BC. So it's great to see some Canadian content on UFC Fight Pass. We haven't had it since like 2018 with the last TKO show.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, when I fought for TKO, they were on Fight Pass, which was great, just because it's more viewers and easily accessible place to watch when you have Fight Pass. But yeah, it's good to see that more Canadian shows got some more outlets to watch their fights. A lot of times you're stuck watching some shitty stream that chops up halfway through and you can never see it. But yeah, that's great for them. BFL. I've never fought for either of them, but I've seen. So it looks like they put on some really good shows and they've produced some good guys. So it's good for them. We need to follow suit here in Ontario and get BTC on in the same
Yeah.
book there.
I mean, there's so much like how this country is so spread apart. You've got Western Canada pretty much taken through. You need someone from Ontario, and you need BTC out there, I think, as well. Just the level of talent that has fought for that promotion, that have gone onto the UFC or are doing big things on like an LFA or a CFFC. Like, if you want to find true talent, it's right there in BTC Fight. And as well, there's the out east with the Fight League Atlantic organization. So hopefully we can see more Canadian organizations make their way on, because Dana White did say at the end of season 4 of the Contender Series, he's concerned about the regional scene because he needs the regional scene to help build his next wave of talent. So he was going to pick up a bunch of promotions. So get some more content out there, because there's a lot of hungry guys in this province that are ready to take that next step to the UFC.
Yeah, well, and I'm glad Dana White said that. Usually I don't agree with a lot of the shit he says, but I do agree with him there, and I'm glad that has the foresight to see that this does have a ripple effect, and if these smaller shows, don't have the backing or the people to watch, or the viewers to watch, it does affect the fighters, which eventually will be, the next fighters, the next generation, that will hopefully be competing in the big leagues like the UFC. So I'm glad that he sees that, and he's kind of, given opportunity for these smaller promotions to get more eyes on.
Yeah, because it's been obviously with COVID, and a lot of small business people know this, but like the local scenes, the smaller shows, they've had a rough go, and some may not be able to make it going into 2021. So it's nice to see, UFC, they have the resources, they have the ways to get some of these promotions, a solid way to fund them as well, with them being on that platform. So that's nice to see, because I just love the regional scene as well. That's where you see, as you said, the next guys, and you get to follow the story of some of these guys that are champions in these regional promotions that make their way up to the UFC or a Bellator, and just see like you saw it coming. It's just the perfect why I love this sport personally.
Yeah, exactly, man. It's like watching, a superstar come up and, out of high school basketball, then going to college, and then finally making it to the NBA. It's the exact same type of thing. I remember fighting for, W1 was the first promotion I fought for in Quebec, and then I fought for, Rec and Aggression, and then Score Fighting Series built so many guys that ended up going on and having great careers, and then so it's very, very important to have those smaller shows and regional shows that have that foundation for these guys to build themselves up and get the experience in there. It makes them a little bit of money. You're not making much money, but and it's also a great opportunity to have your family and your friends come watch you fight live, because once you get to a bigger show, it's very difficult unless they come to your hometown or even close to it. It's hard to get everybody there to come watch you, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm just happy to see the investment in regional MMA, because it needs it. There's so much talent out there, not just Canada and the United States, but all around the world, especially if you follow it like, you and I do, and see some of the talent that's fighting in Europe as well, Asia, what have you. So it's nice to see more regional promotions make their way onto UFC Fight Pass. Well, Josh, that'll bring us to a close here of this episode here of Jason and the Gentleman. Before I let you go, if you got anything to plug, go plug it now, because we'll be winding the show down in just a matter of moments.
Nope, nothing to plug, brother. I'll just follow the show, follow us. I'm at Gentleman J Hill. You can find me there. And yeah, just keep doing this, like we always say. Keep plugging away, and the more people that tune in, the more we can communicate with and keep this thing going. I mean, we have fun doing it no matter what, but the more eyes, the better.
Yeah, the more eyes, the better. And just before I wrap it up, yesterday was 1 year since BTC 8, which was the first MMA pro MMA show in Niagara Falls, Ontario, and was one of the better BTC shows that you and I have had the pleasure of calling. It's such an electric atmosphere too. Like, that was so fun, and I was like kind of looking back on with great fondness, but also a lot of sadness that we didn't get to do it more than once this year.
Yeah, no, I feel you, man. That was a great show, and yeah, it feels like forever since it's happened, and I can't believe it's what was it, February was the last show, I think, right? Or March?
February 29th, Leap Day.
Yeah, so it's coming up on a friggin' year, man. In a couple more months, so hopefully this kind of things open back up, and we see the light, and we get the shows going again and get back to it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that'll do it for this episode of Jason and the Gentleman. That's always my co-host, my broadcast partner, the gentleman, Josh Hill. I'm Jason Heckham. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again, same bat time, same bat channel.